Well, the ETF environment is continuing to grow and change, offering investors many different ways to play the market and invest for the long run. And joining us now to talk about some ETF strategies is Dan Draper. He is the global head of ETFs at Invesco. Thanks for joining me today, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so 2020, we know it's an election year, but that's just one of the myriad of topics that we could see headlines really driving the conversation for the market's direction. So given that, what would be your anticipation for some of the moves that we could see in the market and how investors should react to that?
Right, no, great question. As you said, it's kind of a big year, election year. There's Senate hearings, global trade, potential issues, and now we have coronavirus. So a lot of things that were unexpected, I think, happening, but still we're not that far from an all-time market high. So I think for many investors, it's sticking to long-term goals and planning where possible, but then also maybe remaining a little bit nimble and also keeping an eye on risk management, because when you're at these levels of kind of market highs. So I think that many investors still have a lot of common needs around income. And if you really look at, we have low interest rates really underpinning the markets. And it seems a lot of conviction from central bankers really around the world that they want to maintain lower interest rates and, keeping asset prices reasonably high. So in that environment, you have to make sure you're not complacent, but can you still find ways to better diversify? And then perhaps if there are tactical opportunities or maybe thematic ways that you can find some opportunities, just to be aware of those market trends as well.
Right, well, let's talk about perhaps some of those tactical opportunities. Thematically, we know that the solar group had a really hot year last year. TAN, a big performer there. So for investors who are aware of different groups that are doing well, or I guess hot right now, you could say maybe it is semiconductors tied to the China trade issue, what have you. How could investors use ETFs to leverage that knowledge of a trend that's performing well without having to research which one in the group might be a leader?
You're right. Well, you do get on occasion these long-term, almost cultural thematic changes really in society, and I think today ESG, or environmental social governance, seems to be a theme which is really stretching over, again, multiple generations. And within that, the environment, you mentioned solar. So things around solar power, clean energy, clean technology, environmental technology, all those areas give you an opportunity, but many of the companies tend to be smaller, or like you said, harder to research. It can be expensive or just difficult to learn how to pick individual stocks. But you look at an area like solar, then that the ETF we have, TAN, T-A-N's the ticker, that gives you the opportunity to get efficient and relatively easy exposure to the entire sector, but without having to pick a specific name, and allowing you to, again, kind of diversify. And that product in 2019 was up over 66%. So as I said, the knowledge of what the opportunities, there were regulatory changes, for example, in California that benefited solar. So there are a lot of different trends, and I think if you see that opportunity and it's appropriate for your portfolio, the ETF is a very simple and relatively easy way to get that exposure.